Hey folks, Jim here, producer of Around the House Show. You're loving the audio tips right now, but here's something new. Our full-length episodes and expert interviews are now on YouTube as video, so you can watch the demos, tool close-ups, and guest interviews, or just hit play and listen like a regular podcast. Just search Around the House Show on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button, and turn on notifications. It's free, and you'll get the best of both worlds, visual how-tos when you want them, audio when you're on the go. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast app too. Thanks. And now back to the show.
Get you on the radio, yeah, you gotta get on the radio.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Around the House with Eric G, where we got to get you on the radio. And I'm going to give out my numbers here in just a minute. But, you know, we've got a special caller here calling in today. We've been talking how to hire a contractor, and I have got the expert Skip Bedell from Catch a Contractor and Fox News DIY Handyman. Welcome to Around the House, brother.
Hey, man, how you doing? Eric G, always so good to be talking with you.
Oh, man, always good to be talking to you as well. Looking forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, man, IBS is going to be fun. Looking forward to checking out all the great things happening there at that industry show. It's going to be a good time for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So, you know, we've been talking today in here about, you know, hiring contractors, and I saw that, man, Catch a Contractor is out on Amazon and a bunch of different things out there now.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of cool, man. We really had a great opportunity to help a lot of people with that show. Great show on Spike TV. Yeah, it is available now. All 30 episodes, 3 seasons, is available on Amazon. It's on iTunes. It's all over the place. But, you know, it was just a cool opportunity to be able to really be doing something for people, you know, and helping them find the right contractor and showing them kind of like some of the mistakes that people on our show made. I mean, of course, if you've seen the show, you know, some pretty horrific situations out there that we were trying to write.
Like, what was his name? Manny, I think?
Oh, good Lord. Yeah. Manny was definitely an exception. He was probably one of the worst of the worst. You know, they were all pretty bad in their own way. And it's unfortunate because all of those people that we came across, they were just like everyday regular folks. You know, it could be like your mom or your neighbor or anybody. They just got themselves into a bad situation and set out to do some work in their house and thought they were hiring the right guy. But unfortunately, we found that, you know, doing it over a couple of years in 30 different homes that we saved, that most of them were making a lot of the same mistakes. You know, they just weren't vetting the guys properly. They didn't know the proper process, and they didn't ask the right questions. And ultimately, it got them all into the same situation. You know, they wound up paying a lot of money up front, and their house was in shambles.
Exactly. Last hour we had Jeff, our buddy Jeff from Stonehouse Revival, call in. He said it's like online dating when you're hiring a contractor. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I know Jeff real well. He's a good guy, and he's very funny, actually. Everything that comes out of his mouth, he has a good way of making light of even the worst situations.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it kind of is. You know, you're right. I guess I never looked at it like that, but it kind of is. You know, you're out there, you're looking for the person that's going to kind of click with your situation. And unfortunately, there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of guys out there that are, you know, kind of false advertising themselves as qualified to be doing the job, really more than what they are qualified. And we found, I think, probably that was the biggest scenario. Yes, there's always going to be straight up just bad dudes that are looking to take people's money and not do any of the work. They didn't have any intention of doing anything right to begin with. But I think a lot of these people also got involved with guys that are just in over their head.
Yeah.
And, you know, many of these contractors, they were just looking to take on the next big job and, you know, expand and everything else, but they just weren't capable of doing it. So not knowing how to estimate the job properly, not charging enough money for it, and then somewhere along the way realizing they couldn't possibly get the job done either because they weren't skilled enough or they didn't have enough money charged on the job, and ultimately they all abandoned it. So we found a lot of those folks that made those same mistakes got into the same trouble. And then of course we had a couple of Mannies too. I probably they probably just had no intention of getting the job done right. So, along the way in doing all these, we kind of figured out what these people were doing and making these same mistakes. And it's been our pleasure too to now kind of be going around the country and doing some trade shows and home shows. We have some coming up this year, which when I get our schedule, we'll let you know. But we kind of get up there on stage in front of folks and let them know all the things that we learned through this process of filming this show and these 30 different stories that we kind of told. And, most of these people really, when they set out to do it, they just didn't know how to find the right guy. So we kind of formulated this plan of, the questions to ask. And, when you're interviewing your contractors, and of course, the most obvious would seem to be like, are you licensed? Are you insured? Are they professional people that you're dealing with? Because so many people that we found in these stories, we asked them, well, did the guy have a license? And, well, no, not really. We found out that he didn't later, after we did the job. So I think that during the process, that's one of the first things you got to ask right up front, because in that interviewing time, if you're talking to someone that doesn't have a license, not professional, not insured, not qualified, just move on to the next person.
Yeah.
The next thing kind of really was that, are they specialized in what it is that you're looking to do? Right? So we found that so many of these people, they had someone who actually was a pretty good roofer or a pretty good mason. Like the guy had been doing masonry for 20 years, but now all of a sudden he's doing kitchens and high-end bathrooms and, the kind of stuff that you and I do, Eric.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't mean that he's not a good mason, but guess what? He doesn't have he's not a plumber. He's not an electrician. He's not a tile guy.
The dude's way out of his wheelhouse. Exactly.
Way out, and equally so, the same guy who's doing that maybe is not the person you want on your brick paver job, so asking that question, once you get past the point of, are they licensed, are they professional, find out whether or not they specialize in what it is that you're looking to do. Because you could have the best roofer in the world, but he's not going to be the guy that you're going to want to install your kitchen cabinetry and appliances and electrics and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So that was another big thing we kind of found in this show, was that these people are all making those common mistakes. And even many times what we found was that they had someone that came in there prior, maybe a year or so earlier, and he was kind of a handyman, and there's a lot of those guys around too, like the weekend warriors.
Yeah.
And they're kind of a jack of all trade type of guy and have a little bit of experience in everything, but really don't specialize or fully qualified in any one field. And, hey, the guys did a great job painting our bedroom and hung some closet systems and stuff like that. And we asked him if he could do the bathroom or whatever the other job was.
The room addition or whatever else, yeah.
Yeah, can you add on a full extension to our house? And and many times they were like, yeah, of course I can do it, and they had never done it before. So that's the other big thing, making sure that they specialize in what it is that you want done. And really, the way to do that is to check referrals. Always ask if they have referrals. In that interviewing process, a good contractor is going to be happy to give you a long list of names. If they've been doing this long enough, they're going to have a long list of happy customers. And I always tell people, if they don't have a long list of happy customers to show you, chances are they got a long list of unhappy customers. And that's
so
not
true.
the guy you want to deal with.
Exactly. Well, brother, we got about 30 seconds left. I'm looking forward to seeing you in a few days here and down in Orlando. We're going to have a good time down there. But for all of your stuff, what's the best way for people to find you on the internet?
So skipbedell.com is my website. It shows all the stuff we do on Catch a Contractor. Of course, all the stuff I do on Fox and Friends. I do a regular DIY segment on there as well. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook at Skip Bedell, Twitter, and all that good stuff. And you can check out some videos we post on YouTube as well. And I'll be giving you a schedule. When I see you down in Orlando, I'll be giving you a schedule, all the home shows and stuff we'll be doing this year.
Sweet.
So looking forward to it.
All right. Tell your wife, wonderful wife, hello for me. I'll see you in a few days, brother.
Will do, man. Safe travels, Eric. Thanks,
you too.
buddy.
Thanks, buddy. We'll be back as soon as Around the House returns.
Now, more of a Northwest News and Information Weekend on FM News 101 KXL.
Am I crazy for wanting you? Am I thinking this might
not be true. Am I crazy for thinking your love is for me? And you keep your hands in the
Welcome back to Around the House. Listen to a little Jade there. My 17-year-old buddy that's got a new album out. And, man, love that stuff. He's going to be a big hit out there. And at 17 and in high school, it's a long way up. Well, hey, we've been talking how to get the good contract. We just had Skip from Catch a Contractor on. You're listening to Around the House here with Eric G. Now that we've got some of the guests out of the way, had some good conversations there, I want to get you on the phone, and that number is 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. You know, if you missed some of the interviews and stuff we had earlier on the show, you can check it out on AroundTheHouseOnline.com, because this is going to be up in a podcast form, and you'll be able to check it out there. And if you're already listening to us on the podcast form now and you're in the future, thanks for listening. So also, if you're shy and you don't want to call in, you can send a email to ath@kxl.com, and make sure you go to the Facebook page, which is Around the House with Eric G. I've got a ton of stuff on there, and I'm going to be doing some live videos this week. So here's a little social media hint this week. Keep your eye out on social media. Follow Baldwin Hardware. I'm going to be doing a social media takeover for them on Tuesday. So you're going to see all of my posts for Baldwin Hardware. I'm going to be going around the Kitchen and Bath Industry Show, the International Builder Show, out in Orlando this week. I'm going to be posting up on their social media page going out all over the world. So you're going to see some of the new stuff that maybe I'm going to be talking about next week when I get back here in the studio. But we'll be sharing that stuff up there. I'm going to be doing a bunch of Facebook Live videos. We're going to be having a good time. I'm going to be streaming a ton of stuff on social media, as well as doing some seminars, which you might see on Facebook Live as well. So we're going to have a good time with all that, and make sure you follow all those social media platforms. It doesn't matter if it's on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. I'm going to have stuff up on there all week long. Well, 877-733-1011 is the number to get us here. That's 877-733-1011. Well, one of the things I want to talk about, that within this hiring a contractor, some of the bad things, I just want to review kind of my list of bad things that happen when you hire an unlicensed contractor. And I'm sure, and I want to say this, I'm sure there's a lot of great unlicensed contractors out there. I'm not bagging on contractors, because I have a lot of my friends are contractors, but there's a lot of unlicensed ones out there that for some reason aren't able to go out and get their license and bond, and they're breaking the law. And so some of the things with what can happen is if they don't have a bond and you're out there, they can't reimburse you for their poor workmanship, because that bond is kind of like an insurance policy for you. Plus, you have no mediation that you can get if they don't have a license or bond. There's nobody to get a hold of with that. And they're unlikely to have that liability insurance to cover property damage or injuries caused by the contractor. If they're out there and they do something that they break a pipe and it causes damage and it washes the hillside down on your neighbor's house, guess what? You own that. So you want to have somebody that's going to take the fall for their mistakes, not you taking the fall for their mistakes. And there's no history that you can fall back on if they're hiding from the authorities. There's no real way to see what's going on. And I'll be honest, I know people go out and use the Better Business Bureau, and I'm going to bag on those guys for a second. I'll be honest, I am not a Better Business Bureau fan, because they are a profit organization, and I haven't had run-ins with them, but I tell you what, I've had the shakedown by them where they have called me up. When I had my business in Seattle, I had a C rating and no complaints. No one had contacted them. They hadn't contacted me. I had a C rating, and this is my personal experience up in Seattle. Then I got a phone call and an email from their salesperson that if I was going to pay many hundreds of dollars, I could be accredited and I would get an A rating. Well, they wanted my checkbook, and I didn't give them a checkbook. And until they learned that I was in the media, I was going to have to pay to get that A rating. And you know something? I was going to play that game. As soon as they figured out I was in the media, all of a sudden I had an A rating. So I'm not a fan of using the Better Business Bureau as a form of check up on contractors. It's not a reliable source. That's my opinion. So do some other source findings out there, and just don't go off a couple references either. If they give you 2 or 3 references, Sometimes those 2 or 3 references are cousins, uncles, friends, buddies. Really do your research. Go out and even take a look at a project. Now, here's one thing when you're dealing with references that I want to talk about for a minute. If you have a big kitchen and bath remodel done, let's say, or a house addition done, do you want this guy's next 15 phone calls for people that he talks to? So many contractors will kind of throttle their people down because I'll be honest, when you're done having this big project done, you kind of want to forget about it and enjoy it. You don't want to have people calling you up every couple days asking as a reference. So have that conversation with your contractor after you have the project done about being on the reference list, because that's the problem with references. If they're a big contractor, you might get a bunch of phone calls, and that could be irritating and get in your way of your life. So again, that's kind of the struggle between the contractor and the homeowner and the project. So again, those are things you got to keep in mind, because those reference lists, they don't always just give them out, because I wouldn't want to get hounded after the fact. I've had a few handful of phone calls. That's great. I'll help out. But I know most people just want to, quite frankly, be left alone. So there's a lot of things with finding contractors with word of mouth, talking to friends that have had great experiences. That's one of the best ways, is if you know somebody that had a great experience with a contractor, and they just loved it and they had a good relationship, find out, try to talk to them. But here's the thing. When you sit down and talk to a contractor, and when the contractor is talking to the homeowner, there's a relationship there, and there are times that those personalities, quite frankly, just don't mix. They're not going to. You could have the best homeowner and the absolute best contractor, and if those personalities clash or they don't know how to communicate and work together, guess what? You've got 2 great people, and that doesn't work. And if it's not smooth then, it's not going to be smooth when it gets hard, because that's the honeymoon period. If it's not working great there, I promise you, when the stress comes in, your house is tore apart, and you find dry rot or something happened that you weren't anticipating, guess what? That is where you really have to bear down and deal with that relationship. So if you don't have a good foundation for that relationship on the front side, when it gets tough, it's going to get tough, and it's going to get worse. So make sure you guys are communicating well on the front end. And just like we were talking about earlier, when you've got to talk money, everybody has to be honest, because everybody has a budget. I don't care. I've worked for some of the highest end people in Seattle up there, in Medina and everywhere else, and everybody has a budget. And the quicker that everybody can get down to communicating what that budget is, the better projects it's going to be, because there's not this long dance of trying to figure out what the money is. And the money is always the biggest sticking point. And that's why you got to be careful with as well, is hiring that lowest bid, because sometimes somebody just didn't know what they were looking at, and that's going to cost you in the long run. Well, I'm going to get your calls here at the last half hour of the show at 877-733-1011. We'll take all your calls just as soon as Around the House returns.
You're listening to a Northwest News and Information Weekend on FM News 101 KXL.
Hanging out with us down on 6th Street. He knew that I was in trouble. I was feeling much like the devil. There was something burning deep inside of me. Ran into the Puerto Ricans. These girls took us to the
Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G. We've been having a lot of fun today talking about, well, how to hire a contractor. But this segment of Around the House is brought to you by Adair Homes, building quality, affordable custom homes throughout the Pacific Northwest for nearly 50 years. AdairHomes.com. They're a great, custom home builder out there, and I really appreciate them being a sponsor of the show and a sponsor of the segment. What I like about those guys, in 2017, if they're building you a home, you can, on average, get about a 25% equity. And if I'm doing a new home, that's not a bad place to be. And with them, you get to build it like you want it. Instead of having to walk into a development and pick out what you want, you can actually get what you want, which is pretty cool. Well, I want to get all your calls here because we're going to run out of time, as we always do in the last half hour. 877-733-1011. That's 877-733-1011. I don't care if you're trying to fix that toilet or trying to fix that electrical outlet or trying to figure out how to get that Alexa to turn on your living room lights or turn off your TV. We're here to help you. And 877-733-1011 is the number. And I wanted to give a shout out. We've got a couple of our show sponsors here that are actually hiring out there. So I know that Rose City Electric, RoseCityElectricCo.com, is looking to hire electricians out there. So if you're an electrician and you want to be home every night and you want to have a consistent job that's Monday through Friday and you're working a lot and keeping busy and making good money, get a hold of Rose City Electric Co. There's somebody looking for help out there, just like everybody else is, but they're one of our sponsors. I want to give them a shout out. And Western Construction Systems is actually trying to hire 2 or 3 service techs out in the field. And if you want great benefits and great hours, because you know something? Those guys are busy 365 days a year. They're never not busy, and they're booked out a fair amount out. So if you want to not have seasonal work and be out there looking for work a couple months out of the year because it's a slow season, they don't have a slow season. So check them out at westernconstructionsystems.com. They're hiring for a few guys out there. So that's in the Portland area here as well, in the Portland-Salem area. And sorry, you guys out in Bend on the east side that are listening, because can't help you there. But if you want to come this way, they're looking for work. So we've been talking, hiring contractors. And one of the things that you can do is, depending on what state you're in, each state has a great way to look up to see if that contractor is licensed online. So you can Google search the Oregon CCB or the Washington State Department of Labor and Industries, and online you can take their business name, their personal name, all these things, and look back in history and see what they've done, what their old business names on. There's a ton of difference there. So that is a great resource to use. Hey, we got a caller in here. This is Charles and Florence. Welcome to Around the House.
Hello.
What can I help you with today?
I need to provide more light for my home, and I thought about a skylight, but somebody recommended a solar tube as being better, and I'm wondering what the difference is.
You know, solar tubes it's depending on, better is an interesting word for either one of those, because there are kind of pluses and minuses with each. You know, when you frame in a skylight and provide yourself with a nice big skylight, you can put a ton of light into the room, as well as almost give you a little feeling of ceiling height in there as well, because that skylight is mounted up on the roof, and then you've got that kind of window well that goes up to it, depending on what your ceiling configuration is. So it can give you a larger feel of space, and if you're doing something that's efficient up there, you know, it's a pretty efficient way of doing it as far as putting the good insulated glass and things like that up there. Now, if you go to a solar tube, that is, a flat panel, so you don't get that height with it. But the benefit of that
retrofit, see?
Yeah, see, that is going to be a significantly more cost-effective way of putting that in, and that's good for that. But at the same point is that you've got kind of a almost fixture on the inside that makes it look like it's a light fixture. You're going to have light come in, but you're not going to be able to see the clouds out there, or you're not going to be able to see the sky. You're not going to see the sun coming in, but you're going to get light. So it's really depending on what your overall impression of what you want. If you just want light, the solar tube is by far the most cost-efficient way to do it.
Okay, so it's a matter of cost, not efficiency?
Well, efficiency, I mean, the solar tube's probably going to be a little more energy efficient because it's not as big as one of the, like a 2x4 skylight up there. So you're going to have less heat loss with that. But it's really kind of the difference of what you want the overall look to be combined with cost. Because, with a skylight, you can look up and see the clouds or see if it's a blue sky or if it's raining or if it's snowing, whatever else. With a solar tube, it's just letting light in, and it's coming through, in most cases, kind of an obscure plastic, up there that's almost like what you'd see with a fluorescent light. It's got a diffuser up there that does it, so you don't see the sky so much as you get light through it during the daylight.
Okay, did you say that the solar tube is less or more expensive than a skylight to have installed? Solar
tube's going to end up being a lot less expensive because you don't have to do all the framing changes up there. That's going to fit in between stud bays, and you won't have to do any reframing up there. So they're going to cut a hole in the roof, they're going to cut a hole in the drywall, and they're going to connect those two pieces together, and that's how that works. Where if you have a skylight, somebody's going to come in there and have to cut trusses usually, and they're getting into a much larger a much larger installation process. So it's going to be 2 scales of price. The solar tube is going to be much less expensive to install.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thanks for calling, and thanks for listening to Around the House. Yeah, that's one of those things with those. I personally like the look of a skylight, but something that's going to be the difference is what you want that overall look to be, and of course what the what the cost is going to be, because those are going to be 2 different scales as far as price. Hey, let's run out to Don in Beaverton. Welcome to Around the House.
Yeah, I'm calling about a tax question.
I'm not a tax guy, but I can try to help you. What do you got?
Listened to the radio and it said call this number.
Well, you're calling Around the House. We take home improvement calls. So what can I help you with?
Nothing. I will be good. Have a good day.
All right, Don, I guess you're calling the wrong show. So, well, thanks for calling, man. Well, at least you're not listening to this show. That's kind of crazy. Well, that's how it goes. Well, we're talking catching a contractor kind of thing because we had Skip Bedell earlier on the show. So if you want to listen to the podcast of Around the House, you can go over to aroundthehouseonline.com because you can catch Jeff Devlin for Stonehouse Revival. We had Skip Bedell on earlier. So we've been really talking about how you end up hiring that contractor and finding the right person. So earlier we've been talking about some of the resources out there, and that's really the key, is having the right resource for you, the homeowner, and finding the right contractor. And of course, like we were talking about earlier, you've got to be a good homeowner too. And that's kind of part of the deal. If you come in with a big chip on your shoulder and you go to hire a contractor and you're going to put them through the CIA waterboarding to get the information out of them, guess what? You're going to pay the most that you're going to find. That is the fastest way to make yourself have the most expensive project and pay the highest rates. Because I tell you what, if you are difficult to work with on the front end, you're going to scare that contractor. And you know something? I've seen it 100 times out there. If you're unreasonable, guess what? You're going to get the unreasonable price. So be reasonable with these guys. They're going to many times be reasonable with you, especially if you're hiring the right ones. And that's some of the best advice I can give you. So, when we come back, we're going to have one more short segment, and we'll wrap this show up for the first one of 2018. We'll talk a little more about how to hire a contractor just as soon as Around the House returns.
This is a Northwest News and Information Weekend on FM News 101 KXL.
Little Lemmy there. Gotta love it. Welcome back to Around the House with Eric G., where we've been talking home improvement, but we've been talking about how to, hire the right contractor. But I want to give out a quick shout out here because it's kind of a special day here at Around the House because, Michelle Porter, who has been our person that's been screening the phones and putting up the podcast, and she also produces news on the weekends. It's her last day today, and something like this is kind of a big deal because she's been part of this family here, and we've got a very tight bunch here on Around the House. And I know, Dane, you've been working with her as well, and we're going to miss Michelle here this coming year because we're starting it out, but you know something? She's done a great job for us.
Just to think of all the changes that, Around the House has gone through in the last year and a half and everything since I've been here, and Michelle's come in and just done really great work for us, does well on the phones and helping produce the show, and she will be greatly missed here at Around the House.
She is, no question. And she's in there working right now. She doesn't even know we're talking about
She has no idea.
That's even the best part of this. So,
I'm going to have to let her know once I turn the mic off.
She's going to have to do that. So, all right, brother. Well, you know something? We've been talking all these things about, the really trying to get the right contractor. And in some of the last little tidbits before we run out of time here in the show, I really want you to do your homework out there. And, the bigger scope of the job, I will tell you, when you're out there trying to hire that contractor, the bigger scope of the job, the more work you should do to select the right contractor. Because if you're going to have them do a big project out there, and you're talking about a home addition or anything else, you've got to really work and do your diligence on that, because if you do your diligence, you're going to be great. You're going to find the right person. But as a homeowner, it's your job to find the right person out there. So, and also make sure that, the damaging thing that you can do out there, and it's so easy to make this mistake, and I have friends make it. I've got lots of great friends out there that have made this mistake as well. Make sure that when you get that low bid, that let's say you're doing a kitchen remodel, and the average kitchen remodel out there is in the $60,000 range, let's say. And yeah, that's actually what the average kitchen remodel price is here in the Northwest, and that's whether you're in Bend or Enterprise or anywhere else. That's what the average kitchen remodel is. Well, if you use that average and somebody comes back at you and you got a bunch of bids, let's say you get 3 quotes, which is a good idea to get. If you get 2 or 3 quotes out there, let's say you got other people coming in at 60, 66, and all of a sudden you got the $20,000 guy, you got a problem, because if you go hire that $20,000 guy that's that much below the average, they probably didn't figure out the project correctly, which means that's going to completely go sideways on you, or it's going to go sideways and they're going to walk off the job because they realized it costs them more to walk away, or they're going to come back with a huge change order and you're going to pay and have this really sour relationship for the rest of that. And so that's the tough part. Pay attention to what the numbers are, but more importantly, do your research and find out. Ask your friends around the office. Ask about, how is your kitchen remodel? I heard you did a kitchen remodel. I heard you built a house. I heard you did an addition. Ask around, even post it up on social media and ask people, get on your Facebook, get on your Instagram, put a picture up. Hey, I'm thinking about doing a remodel. What did it cost you? And if you got some friends out there, they're going to come back and tell you what they did, and have a couple conversations with them. Educate yourself so when you go into it, you have that budget set up, because that's kind of the big thing. Well, I want you to take a look at my Facebook this week for Around the House, because it's Around the House with Eric G on Facebook. Like, follow, and do all those things, because I'm going to be posting a ton of content out. I'm going to be doing stuff for Baldwin Hardware. I'm going to be doing a social media takeover for them on Tuesday. So stay tuned to Baldwin Hardware as well, because I'm going to be going around and seeing things for the first time that nobody else is going to be able to see out there. You'll see this on Home and Garden TV here in like 9 months when they put that show out. That's the best of the show we're going to. So I'm going to be posting up a lot of it live, and that's really going to help out for you guys out there planning. I got a lot of booths to visit, and I'm going to be doing seminars out there as well, because that's where that's all going to be. So head over to aroundthehouseonline.com to my website for our podcast, but follow us on Facebook, which is Around the House with Eric G, because that's where that's going to be, and I'm going to have a ton of stuff up there. So make sure you follow along. Well, that's all the time we got for this week. Our thanks to Mixmaster Dane Vodder for making the show sound great, and a special thanks to Michelle Porter, who has always rocked the Communications Center. We're going to miss her. Most of all, though, we want to thank you for listening. We want you to join us next week from noon to 2, where once again we talk about maintenance, repair, designing for remodeling, and renovation of your home, as well as the show I go to. Until then, be sure you do what you love and love what you do. This is the Radio Northwest Network. I'm Eric G., and you've been listening to Around the House.
Around the House with Eric G is produced by Alpha Media USA in association with Design by Eric G LLC. All rights reserved. Copyright 2017. We will be back next week. If you missed part of the show, check out the podcast on AroundTheHouseOnline.com. Remember, measure with a micrometer, mark with chalk, and cut with an axe. Thanks for listening to Around the House.
We're all over the radio. We're hand in hand in stereo. All over the radio with you. Anywhere the wind blows.
Hey guys, it's Eric G from Around the House, and I am thrilled to announce that our massive back catalog, nearly 1,900 episodes packed with home improvement tips, DIY hacks, and expert advice, is now available for free. Dive into years of inspiration to tackle on your next project. And just a heads up, some podcast players limit how far back you can go. So if you can't find it all, just head straight over to our website, AroundTheHouseOnline.com,
and listen to every episode there. Don't miss out. Start binging today. And thanks for tuning in to Around the House.